We are.
Hey, Jim.
Hey, Sharon.
How you doing?
We're back.
I feel like we should be paying attention to all the technology and seeing anything disappears on us this time, but everything's good.
So far, so good.
That's exciting. I also know that you're supposed to take a minute or two as you get started to let people go, ooh, they're live. How do I click that link?
Right.
And so we are live on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
We are live on LinkedIn. We are live on Facebook.
Excellent.
And so if you are posting comments from there, you're not even necessarily showing up here, because when we had a few people in the room, it still only showed one last time.
Exactly.
So we're going to assume you're there, even if we don't see you. Every so often we'll mention the idea of comments and even put them in the stream.
Exactly. We did that last time. It was very entertaining.
It was.
Very entertaining.
So welcome to this live webinar that Jim and I are doing here from Podium Prosperity Group. I am your coach, Sharon Cunningham.
And I'm your consultant, Jim Pillow.
What we tell people that is very counterintuitive is don't grow your business.
That's crazy.
I know. And people think of that too. Right? Look at society and it is all about hustle, work 10 times harder and do 10 times as much as anybody else is willing to do. And the idea of what the entrepreneurial life is a life of grind and sacrifice and suffering. For what purpose?
Hopefully a good reason.
Hopefully. But here's the thing that I have seen. I don't know if you've seen this, Jim, but people who think if I just sacrifice for 10 years, it'll all pay off. And they don't necessarily know it's going to be 10 years until they're at year number 9.
Right.
And they've been telling themselves that the first year, it's like that first year of business is hard. You don't even break even. What's the second year of business like?
It sounds like it's pretty similar.
For many people it is, right? And it's just not because you're not great at what you do, not because the market may not need what you do exactly or an iteration of it. Right? 42% of businesses fail because there's no need in the marketplace. That doesn't mean there isn't a need for something else that business was doing. They just didn't hit their business model.
Right. It all starts from the business model.
And that has been an interesting realization, right? How long does it take before you really hone in on your business model? Well, if you don't know what a business model is,
a long time.
If ever, right?
If ever.
We talk about the model of business growth is not linear until it is. There's the squiggly line growth. But what we talk about is, the squiggly line goes up and up and up as you go from self-employed, you get helpers, and then you reach this point where you have a few helpers, and then you add another helper, and suddenly you're beyond your span of control, and you start going down into the doldrums.
Yeah, you break your not business model.
Yes, because you don't really need a business model as a self-employed person to survive and pull an income.
Because if you're not making any money as self-employed, if nobody wants to hire you for the thing that you do, then you go back to being employed.
Right. Yep. What the challenge is when success happens. If you didn't have a model, if you didn't have a plan, it is as though business happened to you, as though success happened to you.
Unmanaged success is really what causes the problem. Growth is the hardest thing to do in business.
And it looks like you're succeeding and you're faking it, right? You're pretending you're succeeding because your business is.
And your revenue might be growing. Yeah.
And you as the business owner may be the lowest paid person, if you're paid at all.
Right.
You might even be looking at your employees going, these are amazing employees. I need to mortgage my house so that I can keep them
busy.
I need to take on that client with all the red flags so I can keep them busy.
And I think our models that we work with and our clients, that tends to happen about a revenue number in the $1.5 million range,
depending,
maybe a bit lower,
depending, right? If it's
higher.
Trades and construction, absolutely. If it's more firms, design firms, architectural firms, the engineering firms, it can happen much sooner,
right,
in numbers. And so if, depending on the type of service and the valuation of your service, and if you're undervalued, that's a part of this conversation too. So anywhere from 500 or 600,000, depending, to 1 to 2 million, there's that point.
You grow into the problem, which is amazing, right? It means you have a business, you're doing a thing that people value in the marketplace, but you don't have a business model to sustain delivering that thing.
And until you've actually explored your own business model, it just sounds like theoretical nonsense that nobody even is interested in. Like, I don't need my MBA, I just want to make my business work.
Yep.
Much like I did that PowerPoint presentation that I was like, I threw some slides together, but I knew that I wanted to talk to this group of people about who they were and how they were showing up in the marketplace and valuing themselves in the marketplace. And I shared the most boring marketing slide ever. And we spent 45 minutes on it. We could have spent 3 hours on it, because when it's about your business, business knowledge is sexy.
It is, yeah, and important. And you can't build a business without business knowledge any more than you can do the thing that you do without whatever technical or skill that you have.
So what we've realized is when you hit that point, you actually have to have a business model. You could actually describe it as a one-page business plan. Nobody wants a business plan until they realize what it is. So when you start from this one-page business plan that uncovers all the profit that you haven't been finding in your business yet, not the revenue, but the profit, and it uncovers the client you want to serve and helps you understand how to combine your excellence in that client to make that profit so much easier to achieve.
That's the thing. The right client, the client that you love, the client that you want to hear from, the client that you want to go find, and a focus on profit, not just revenue.
Exactly.
Which is a big problem in most people's not business model.
Yeah, the realization, and I've been guilty of this in the past, the realization that the only time all that sacrifice pays off is if your business makes profit, not your salary. Because back when I was a web designer, I could have been paid 5 times as much working for somebody else compared to what I was paying myself. Absolutely.
Right.
Treated my employees like gold, loved them, really appreciated them, and had no knowledge on how to do this. So if you're looking for gold, if you're looking for something where you say, I need magic beans and I know there's no magic beans, the thing is, it's not that there's anything you can do suddenly that will create success. It's discovering what success is already in business and what is clouding it and eating the capital and eating your time that does not need to be there at all. That's the real magic after a couple of years in business of saying, what's the business model I want to step into? Because everything else is garbage.
Right.
It got you there, it was beautiful, and now it's getting in the way of your next level.
So we have a whole presentation on this, I think.
We have a whole presentation on this. So let's see if we can actually share the presentation the way we want to this time so that the PowerPoint works. So last time I uploaded it to StreamYard, and that was not the answer. So here we are.
All right. Scale
your profit by optimizing your business model. I didn't say optimize your business model and scale your profit because I recognize that unless you know what the benefit is, there's nothing there for you. Because if your business is succeeding at the level that our typical clients is, you're so busy, unless there is a bottom line ROI, return on investment for the time you're about to spend, your time is the most valuable thing to you. So what we do here at Podium Prosperity Group is we help you focus in on the revenue and, more importantly, transform that revenue to profit and the profit to wealth. All of that needs to happen, not just revenue. And people get trapped in that revenue trap.
They do because it's the common myth of entrepreneurship that growth is revenue, and profitable growth is actually what you're looking for.
Right. More clients, more even bigger clients. There's an attraction there. It's something. It's bragging rights. And also because people don't really understand their financials. They don't understand gross margin. They don't understand cash flow
Mhm.
and retained earnings. It's not taught anywhere, but it's easy to see how much money did we bring in this
Yes.
month. So let's start to uncover this. At the end, you are going to find out how to get Jim and myself to have a look at your business model with you totally free of charge so that you know the opportunities you're missing. There's a fun little exercise that we can do that doesn't even dive into your business model. Just in general, in 45 minutes, we find 6 figures are leaving on the table. That's the revenue model. But in this model, we find 6 figures of profit, money in your pocket, not money on the table. So we'll hang around till the end, or if you're watching this after the fact, fast forward to the end because this is really valuable. If you are already sold on your need for this for your business, too long, didn't read, skip to the end to find out how to connect with us so that you can get your business model optimized.
Just a quick technical question. Will we be able to see comments here?
That is a
gonna be
great
hidden behind-
question.
There we go.
I think we're not going to be able to see us.
Okay.
We'll just assume that we look great. We'll see the PowerPoint and we'll see if people post comments.
Now we can see that. Perfect.
Good question. So at Podium Prosperity, we practice what we preach. We are growing businesses just like you. Our small business is a local business that is empowering business people, just as your small business is not an Etsy store, probably, although you'll definitely get something out of this even there. But what we really help people with is those local small business owners who have employees who are creating the economy that we live in our communities. They're creating employment. They're creating money movement through the economy. So our passion is, with the knowledge that we have, to be able to share that information. Empowering those small business owners, not being your guru that you need to come to us for everything, but teaching you just the business know-how you need to be able to manage your business, scale your profit, and finally have a business that loves you back.
Yeah. They're not magic beans, they're knowledge beans. We've got lots of knowledge beans that you need to build your business.
Not just a bean counter.
No.
So when you step into intentional wealth, you get a lot of payoff.
Right. So you go after the clients that you want, that your business needs, that jazz you, because you probably started doing what you did as an entrepreneur because you had a thing that you wanted to produce or serve to a specific kind of client. So going back to finding those clients as opposed to, understandably, taking in every client that comes in because you need to put food on your table and you're trying to keep your team busy.
Right. And then narrowing your focus back to why you started in the first place, where your passion is. What often happens in that first year of business is you start out with this beautiful vision of what you like to do, and then you need to put food on the table.
Yep.
And so this person's almost my client. I could do that. And if you're brilliant, like most of our clients are, you absolutely could. So when someone says, hey, can you? I know that you're here to install my deck, but could you do some landscaping? I could. I know you're here to wash the windows, but could you clean the eaves trough? Yeah, I could. Not the question you want to answer, but it does happen in the first year, 2, 3, 4, until you step back and realize you have choice and you can narrow back in now to your focus. That allows you to actually dominate your market. So you stand out as a leader in your marketplace and become the no-brainer. Who would you use if you wanted to grow a business past 5 employees? Well, Podium Prosperity Group.
And there's a transition model. So the recommendation that comes out of this isn't, stop eating because you need to find the right clients. It's if you're going to do things that are outside your optimal sort of profitable market segment, then know that you're outside it and be intentional and understand that you will be eventually, not serving those customers in the future. So there is a transition plan here. And we all, as entrepreneurs, we all understand that we have to feed our family and we have to keep our employees busy.
And we also, because of our business knowledge and our ability to look at your data, know that your potential is already inside your business or very nearby, so that those clients you're looking for are easier to find than if you were just starting brand new like you did in the first place, right? It is easier now to find those clients that you thought you would find in year one. Stats are devastating, right? That you were brave enough to start your business in the first place in light of these stats, knowing that anywhere from 50 to 80% of businesses fail in the first 10 years, depending on what stats you're reading and what type of business you're in. But that stat, 42% of businesses fail because there's no market need, speaks to the fact that you have not created a business model that brings you in as a player in the marketplace. Few other stats, there are pricing and cost issues. Absolutely. Whether it was that way in the beginning, over time, but some fun things that happen with expenses is they'll go up.
Yes, they will. Yeah.
They ever come down?
And in a growth model, typically not.
But even if you're not growing, last year when business was good, or in 2018, 2019 was when business was good, you went, I need a better office.
Yes.
Right? I need a better car. I need these things. So those expenses go up. Did your pricing adjust?
Absolutely. So inflation, a big factor. And one of the key aspects of small businesses generally is that they don't think about adjusting their prices. But we're all living through a time of high inflation in food, and we're reading these stories about producers of food raise their prices. As soon as they have a cost increase, they raise their prices, or they do the tricky marketing thing of shrinking the packaging or the size of the serving or whatever it is. So it's an important part of marketing and profitability to be thinking about your pricing all the time.
So I thought it was interesting that the need/lack business model is absolutely showing up in the other aspects that we look at here. But for some of these startups who failed, they recognize that they'd never actually figured out what we do in any fashion. And then the pivot gone bad. So coming out of the pandemic, the pivot that was good in 2020 wasn't necessarily good in 2021. Business changed. People changed in that year. 2020 was an amazing year for my business before I merged with you guys. 2020 was actually one of my best years ever, because serving business people who needed help, boy, did they know they needed help.
They did.
And they thought the end was in sight, because 6 weeks, right? Buckle down.
That's right. Be out of this pandemic in no time.
So the pivot that you may have done in the last few years may not be valuable anymore. So helping you adjust your business model based on that lets you get back in the driver's seat and be more intentional and get back on the road to profitable revenue. And then we'd already talked a little bit about these external challenges that you can be going along with a solid business model and things shift on either view.
I think one of the I've one of my business experiences is I've built a couple of technology startups, which is a different business model. It requires external financing. And it is absolutely true that people who invest in technology startups are primarily investing in the management team and the ability to be responsive, because products, markets can move. So they're relying on the management team to be able to adapt to these kinds of challenges. So you have a labor problem. How do you deal with that? So technology, ChatGPT has come along. How do you deal with that? How do you incorporate that into your company? So your ability to have a business model that can adapt to these external challenges is key to your long-term, obviously, survival and profitability.
When you read E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber, you recognize that you come to business with a bunch of hats. Even if you don't know that you have the manager hat, you have the manager hat. If you haven't read the E-Myth Revisited, it is actually one of the ones that I highly recommend. First business book.
core book for our clients. It's a great place to start. If you don't read business books, there's so much good information out there, and it's good to have a curated list. So that's a good place to start.
Yeah, absolutely. So you normally come in as a technician, the person who is excellent at doing something in a way that's missing in the marketplace, ideally. If it's not missing in the marketplace, that's a whole other conversation. But if you come in as that technician, knowing that you have a great product or service, knowing that it is better, especially for the type of client you're going after, that doesn't mean you're going to have a successful business. There are other hats to wear, and that management hat is absolutely one of those places that can be a bit of a shock to the system, because a lot of our clients are in trades and construction, and they come in working with their hands, and they love one-on-one conversations with people, don't necessarily love managing people or managing situations very much. And this is a place where we come alongside as CEO support to help that become much more natural and build that ability.
And this will be a theme as we discuss this. It's not magic. We'll talk about it being math, but it's also science. So management science has been around a long time. And while there are some soft skills that people find uncomfortable, including me, because I'm an accountant, so the soft skills are an important part of that. But management is actually a science. It's well studied. It's well understood. Human behavior is well understood. How to manage employees is well understood. It's just a skill that needs to be mastered and knowledge that needs to be acquired.
Yeah, as soon as you get out of that place of feeling like you have to do it all yourself, right? I refer to it in my coaching room as toxic independence, that idea that I have to succeed or it's not my success. And it often comes from a place of thinking that your self-worth can be created and enhanced by your business success. And in reality, you need to take that business and make it separate from you and look for it to be a place to generate your net worth. Your self-worth is inherent. It's already in you. And really understanding that separation means your business can be successful in one way, and the rest of your world can be successful because of your business, being able to fuel it, but not from your business. Was that clear?
Yep, that was clear.
So family, relationships, community, they can all be fueled by your business and be part of your definition of success. Your definition of business success really is going to come back to that math. So there's that little squiggly that we actually have a picture for this one.
My favorite chart to explain how this goes. So the left-hand side of this curve is you start share described, you're self-employed, feels good, people want your services. And so word gets around, and then you have more customers than you can serve. So you get a couple of helpers. Maybe one of the helpers is returning phone calls, that kind of work. You're still generally doing the client work. So you have helpers around the sort of periphery of what it is that you do. And that's kind of the peak of the bump on the left-hand side. And then you need to hire people to help do the thing that you do. And that's where things start to get difficult. So we talked about, even though that curve is going downwards, you can see by the green line underneath it, your revenue is actually growing. So the valley of death is the terrible name for it. We also call it the doldrums. And for those of you who are familiar with sailing, especially olden time sailing, the doldrum was the place between the trade winds of the northern and southern hemisphere at the equator, where boats often get stalled. So they would leave the northern trade winds or the southern trade winds, try to cross the equator to pick up the winds on the other side, and they'd get stuck. And you'd be stuck in this place, running out of food, running out of water, under the hot equatorial sun, with a bunch of really bored sailors.
Great metaphor.
Yeah. So that is actually the doldrums. That's what they are. And you'd have to wait for a storm to come along to get you out of the doldrums. So we don't think storms are the best idea to solve business problems, but it's a place where you have more success than you anticipated. You don't actually have a business model set up or a plan to deal with the success. So congratulations, you're successful. It's absolutely marvelous. But now you have 8 people working for you and no systems and no processes. and you want to keep people busy and the sales aren't coming in at a rate that allows that. So you go without pay and you make sure your employees get paid and you're loyal to them and you don't want to lay them off. That is just a really, really difficult place to be in business. You're stuck. And just so you know, every company goes through this. Every company that today is a 10 or 20 or 50 or $100 million company, except for the tech model startup where you go get external funding. But every company goes through this.
And the harder you work doing things the way that you've been doing them that got you to this level of success, and you know it's a level of success, so you do more of it, the more stuck you get.
And then you think, if I could just sell more, I would get out of this, which is why we start this whole program by saying, don't grow. What you want to do to get out of doldrums is to take what you're already doing and make it immensely more profitable than it is now. So scaling, we call it scaling profit. Get the right business model, tune it up, scale your profit, and then use a profit that's coming out of your revamped, optimized, highly tuned business model to fuel your way out of the doldrums and into whatever growth model you are aiming for.
Yeah, exactly. Nicely put. So evolving the business model, scaling profit, we even then say at that point in time, you're ready to look at hiring, getting an operations manager, project managers, so that then you can systemize what's working before you scale the business. One of the things I do want to mention here is if you're in the doldrums, you can go forward or you can go backward, but you really should not stay there. This is where you are sacrificing your mental health, your marriage, happiness of your dog. Right? You should not stay there. Either decision has a great model tied to it. So if you end up coming to us to do a business model evolution and it turns out you should go backwards, that does not mean you're sacrificing your future.
No.
It means that you're designing it in a different way. There is a very solid self-employed business model. Most people do not know what it is. It's not what anybody's being told out there. It does not include branding and marketing and pushing and hustling. Very simple. So if that's something you want to explore, happy to offer a short coaching session on what is that if you need to go backwards. And during our business model evolution, we'll figure that out too.
We will. Absolutely. The right-hand side of this curve says the 4% club. The scale at the bottom, the green lines, just as a metric for people. So small businesses in Canada start at 1 person, and the definition of a small business ends at 99 people. So it's very likely that if you're a small business at the high end of the scale, you'll be running sort of 10-ish plus $1 million in revenue, and you'll have about 100 people working for you. That's why the tail end of the curve is so much higher than the front end of the curve.
And up to 10% of businesses get to that 1 million. Only about 4% get up to that 10 million, which is part of the reason that it's the 4% club. But there's a lot of interesting Pareto principle application that helps you understand why 4%. Why is it that 4% get there and how else to use that? And we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go along. The other thing that happens ideally, so that you survive your business, you don't stay 100% owner operator if you're growing a business. You can still do the thing that you love to do, just not as much. It is a bit of a challenge for people to recognize that if they're growing a business, that thing that you were great at, you need to stop doing it. You need to get out of operations much of the time and teach other people how to do what you learned how to do. And that's where that systemizing has to come into play, so that the bigger you grow, the easier it is to be consistent with that. So stepping into your owner-manager role, even if it's only part of the time, even if there's 1 day a week where you're just not seeing clients, you're freeing up your time to do business development. And that's a whole other conversation as people try to understand what business development is. But this, what you're watching right now, is business development. This is looking at the business and working on the model. Powerful business development. As you grow, typically you'll then step into owner leader, becoming fully the CEO of your company, so that vision that you have inspires your team, inspires your clients, and it becomes something that is very intentional.
So important aspect of this on this graph is there are actually two journeys going on here.
Mm-hmm.
There's a journey that your company's going through, and there's a journey that you're going through as the business owner. And we treat all of our clients as CEOs, chief executive officers of your business. Whether you've got 2 people working for you or 50 people working for you, you are in fact the CEO of your business.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can't evolve your business, the green stuff, until you evolve as a CEO. And as you evolve as a CEO, it will enable the growth of the business.
Yeah, this is a great slide. We could just talk
It is
about
a good
this one.
slide. Yeah.
This blue arrow, of course, is where you really need to stop. Before you've plunged down into the doldrums, you need to stop and look at that business model and say, is this the model that will carry me forward? How do I optimize it? What's interesting is that every year thereafter, you should step back and say, how else can I leverage the success that I'm building? So this becomes a habit of tweaking and improving your business model, optimizing your profit, and making sure that the foundation of your business is moving with you as you grow. Favorite quote from Benjamin Hardy: success isn't that difficult. It merely involves taking 20 steps in a singular direction. Most people take 1 step in 20 directions. Why I love this is because without the business knowledge, the business know-how, it's hard to know whether you've tested a strategy. So even if we've chunked you up to a strategic level of thinking and taken you out of the tactics like Facebook tactics and networking tactics and brought you right up to strategy, and you start to run with it, most business owners don't know how to measure that and evaluate it or understand how long it takes to really test. That ability to step back and get a solid business model in place, a solid business plan that projects that forward, and key performance indicators, KPIs to measure, is it working, and knowing what to measure.
Exactly.
The doubt and the uncertainty that exist in business are exacerbated by not having that data.
And one of the things we do always with our clients is we include what we call a micro chief financial officer piece of our program. So there's no expectation. You don't need to become a financial expert. You don't need to become a math person. You don't need to become an accountant in order to get enormous value out of the financial information as one of the things that you need to be using to manage your business, to grow it within the context of your business model once that's settled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and knowing your own information is always easier than knowing the theory.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Very
One of the
practical.
things that the more discernment you have about money, the more sophisticated you can be in how you see and understand money, the more that you can attract it. It gets you over some of the financial therapy needs that you might need to have. I just want to mention every so often, if you're watching this either live or even after the fact, you can post in the comments any questions that you have, and we are very happy to answer those questions now or later on. There's going to be a lot of information, so if it's confusing, absolutely let us know. So defining a business model. Why are we getting to this now? Because it's a piece of jargon, and we don't want you getting stuck by the idea of jargon.
And a business model is not a business plan, and a business model is not something that doesn't evolve. It's not a static thing. It is a way of creating the place that you want to compete in your business in a way that favors what it is that you do.
And nicely put. Notice all the decision and choice that's in that statement, that you get to choose where you want to play. And that really kind of summarizes that, right? Where do you play and how do you win? Knowing where you stand out, knowing what it is that you do well. And sometimes it does take, after years, that third party to step back and just challenge your assumptions. Look at how you actually create value. Who's going to pay for that? And if you can deliver it at a high enough margin, I've thrown 50% in here because if you're a service business, 40 to 50% margin. So that needs some definition too. What's margin?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. We spend a lot of time with our clients in the very early part of the process, understanding their gross margin. And the gross margin is really the measure of how efficiently you deliver the product or service that you sell. It is the revenue less the cost of delivering whatever it is that caused that revenue. So for example, the rent of your office doesn't help you deliver services, but if you have a law practice or if you have a property development company, the people that you hire to actually go do those services for you, those are part of the cost of delivering that service. If you've ever had the chance to listen to the calls that public companies do every quarter, they have earnings calls. And okay, I do that.
He does that. I don't even do that yet, although I'm going to.
So the CEO and the chief financial officer, the chief executive and chief financial officer get on these phone calls and talk to analysts and any of their investors for typically an hour or so at the end of a quarter. And it's not unusual for them to spend half of their time explaining to their investors and the analysts that follow them how their margin changed in the quarter, why it's moving the way it's moving. It's that important to running a successful, profitable business. We put 50% down here as a placeholder. It depends what industry you're in. It's something that you need to understand. It depends what your competitors are like, but it's really foundational to achieving your profit.
And here's the thing. This gets you out of the idea of, I'm new, I can't charge as much. I'm small, I shouldn't charge as much. Successful businesses in your industry have an identifiable target margin. It's what makes their business sustainable. If you cannot hit your margin, you don't have a business that's sustainable.
Correct.
This is what it all really comes down to.
It really does. It's such an important piece of the financial puzzle, the math, the business math that will make you profitable.
There's all kinds of ratios and numbers that lead to this, but bottom line, you look at your margins and they're good. You can breathe easy, and then you can investigate, why are they good? Could they be better? But if they are not, then you know you have a significant challenge or opportunity. I mean, if you're going to come see us, you have a significant opportunity to recognize profit.
It is almost always the case that our clients come to us and there's tremendous opportunity to adjust their margin, usually raise it, obviously. And dollar for dollar, every dollar you add to your gross margin goes into your pocket. It's profit. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's what this is about. You're running a business to be profitable.
And so when we do look at that, we're looking at your gross margin overall, but also the individual products and services, mm-hmm. which of them are actually leading to more profit and which of them are eating your capital. Because often the business owner sees this big mush of things that they must do, and they don't know where their highest value is. So stepping back to that, how do you create value, and value that people are willing to pay for, not just something that you fall in love with and say, this is valuable. There's lots of wonderful, valuable things I do that nobody really wants. So
here's an interesting thing that most people really haven't thought about. I mean, it's once you think about it, you go, of course, that's how that, or what happens there, is that the bookkeeping records, for the most part, the bookkeeping records that are maintained for your company, whether you have internal or external bookkeepers, and the accounting work that's done every year is actually intended to make it easy for Revenue Canada to know how much to tax you.
Well, that's a great point.
It's true. When we start working with our clients, part of the process is to look at the financial information that's being produced for their company and switch it around from being something that's useful and helpful to Revenue Canada to something that's useful and helpful to running your business.
What's interesting is when you look at your financials, if you ever look at them and you say, I don't even understand this, there's no point even looking. You're right. We will look at them and we won't understand them until this has been adjusted, till it's been teased out to give detail that matters. It's one of the reasons I think people don't bother looking. Right?
Absolutely.
6 months after year end, there's their taxes done and they go, did I make money? Okay.
Yep. What's in the bank?
Yeah.
Yep.
So why do people have a hard time seeing the opportunity in changing their business model, in evolving their business? I think post-pandemic, people have recognized that there are some pivots that can happen when big external factors occur. But this is like the proverbial frog in the pot of water that they turn up the heat and you don't feel it, you don't feel it, you don't feel it. And then they say the frog boils. It's not true. It's just a story. The frog is actually very smart and hops out. Humans not as smart as frogs. We sit there and we boil. So status quo bias is a very real thing. This is what I've been doing. It's what I must do. I've always served these clients, so I have to keep all these clients and figure out how to make it work with those clients and maybe new clients, right? Then that sounds exhausting.
The really interesting thing about these discussions, and of course we go through this process with every client, is almost always business owners know who the client should be.
Yes.
And there's one of these barriers, but when you go, really, do you like, who would you like as a client? And they can describe their perfect client, but one of these issues is a barrier to actually moving into that, into the clients that you want that are profitable.
Mm-hmm. And the belief in things being static and fear of change both tie together to make you, well, this is business I started. I either have to close this business and fail, or I need to keep working harder and harder and harder. This is what it is. And of course it isn't, right? We've recognized that we can make profound change in your results in 3 months or less. That's there's several really great mic drop moments where you suddenly feel free and powerful and valuable, and you can start making some decisions about your business that are so much easier than your brain makes you think they will be, because the fear of change is a very reptile brain thing. It's what keeps you from eating the poison berries. It's not very valuable in business, but it will keep you alive around saber-toothed tigers. And it's very powerful. It's very hard to overcome sitting alone, overworked, overwhelmed, and burning out. So that too busy piece also, I see that come up when I tell people, if you are too busy for business coaching and if you can't afford this, you need us. If you've been in business for 3 years or more and you don't have time and you don't have money, it's there. It's in your business as potential, and you need us to help you uncover it. Next quarter, it's not going to be any easier if you keep doing what you're doing.
So this list of can't see it things are in the business owner's mind. So when you have the support to look around these barriers that are primarily in your head, and you marry that up with what's possible with the business experience of somebody who has seen lots of different kinds of models work, it's that very powerful combination of, oh my goodness, this is possible. I didn't know that was a thing you could do in business, which we hear quite often from our client. I didn't know I could do that. Yes, you can do that. You need some technical expertise to execute it, but yes, that's absolutely a thing that you can do. Does your business model need to benefit from that?
Right. Yeah, I love that, because sometimes when you just hear the right question, you know the answer, right? It's just that you haven't been asking those questions. So I'm not going to read all the list out loud, but loyalty, gratitude to the clients that first got you started, to your neighbors, cousins, little boy who works for you and probably your business is outgrown. Loyalty can be a challenge. It can feel like a black and white thing, that if I do this, then I'm not being loyal. If I don't do this, right? So we help you see ways of doing things in a very compassionate and wise way. because you get stuck in a black and white thinking that isn't even true. So you can't see the forest for those trees. But if we look at this beautiful forest, look at this great road down the middle. That road is your path through. That road is the road to your business model. You don't need to hike up this mountain and climb this tree and down the other side. But really, as a metaphor, that's what people are doing in their business. They're doing it all things to all people, hoping that it's going to click one day. And eventually, in times of absolute truth, saying, what am I missing? And what you're missing is a business model. So often, this is it. The business model is a representation of your business in its environment from 30,000 feet, from a place of dispassionate, dissociated, objective observing to say, what's going on? So we have a several page workbook that we take you through to identify what's actually happening. It's a snapshot in time of a business, what's actually happening, and then what could be happening.
And busy business owners, we all have lots of things to do, value the concrete. So this is a pragmatic, this actually is a specific look at your business. It's not a general thing. It is a very hard look with your numbers, your clients, your team, at how your business model can and would benefit from working possibly differently.
And it really does take it down to a single page once we're done. Having it all in one space lets you step out of it, and the answers start to pop out just from filling in the model itself. And then some of the questions that challenge your thinking that are very exciting to play with. And it really starts over here in the why. Why did you start this business in the first place? One of the things that has been delighting us is realizing that your why, your vision, often is what's needed to come back in to fix your business model. It's something that you drifted from.
Because you were putting food on the table.
Yes.
And then you got swamped. So, yes.
And although the who is at the center of this, who are you serving? The structure is created by you, by your lifestyle needs, by your strengths, by the legacy you want to create. And then from that, what you do, the ability to refine what you do and how you deliver it so that it's efficient and profitable, all ties together. And we're going to jump into a little bit deeper on each of these over the next little while as we progress through the next 45 more minutes.
Okay.
So when you know what your business model is, every single thing we uncover can be optimized and leveraged. We talk about what are the 5 levers that you need to pull in your business to actually hit profit. We're going to touch on a few of them here. You pull them every year. But there's no point trying until you have a business model that's solid.
And I want to make sure that we understand we're not so the use of these levers is in your current business. I'm not saying you need 2 times the size and that'll give you leverage, right? We're talking about using the business that you have now, tuning up the business model, and that is going to produce a tremendous amount of profitability from what you're doing now. If you have 10 people now, we're going to work with you to build a business model that uses the 10 people you have now, but produces a lot more profit. So we're not fundamentally saying, oh, you need to go out and borrow money or you need to go out and do this to change your business. We're going to work with what you've got.
What's delightful is those 10 people are going to enjoy working there much more because they're actually not working harder to create that level of profit. They're working more efficiently. They're working more focused. They're doing less rework. There's fewer fires to put out. So much goes right when you step back and value yourself and your business and really look at it. This time, because we're able to play it from PowerPoint, I think this is going to play.
Everybody knows about playing with dominoes, but what you may not know is that a domino can knock over another domino, which is about 1.5 times larger. So what I have here is a chain of dominoes Each one is 1.5 times larger than the previous one. And the smallest domino is about 5 millimeters high and 1 millimeter thick. And I will carefully place it. And there are 13 dominoes. And the largest domino, it weighs about 100 pounds and is more than 1 meter tall. Ready? Boom.
We're going to stop him there. You're going to do a replay, but we'll just stop him there. What's important to understand is when people think about changing their business model, they think about that great big domino. They don't realize that to fix their business is a 90-minute session to get started. It's a tiny, deliberate application of force in the right way, in the right place that makes all the sense in the world. If you went after that big domino, which many people do, the big client, the big job, the new service that they think is going to fix everything, they're doing a ton of work.
Absolutely.
And it may never lead anywhere. So stepping back is vital. As if you're banging your head against that giant domino. That's what a lot of people feel like in their business right now. So if we look at the first piece that we want to look at is that focus. What is it that you do? And realistically, what is it that you no longer do? So identifying the value and being valued in your business really starts with knowing your value chain. So you talk through this one.
Yeah, this is one of the tools that we use to analyze your business model, and that is what solution is the end client looking for that you serve with your product or service. And and a good example is I build kitchen cabinets, so I'm actually in a value chain for a customer that's looking for a kitchen, and I happen to be the person that builds the cabinets. So a couple of interesting things about that. One of them is, what does the end client, actually value in that whole chain? And I would suggest that in a kitchen, what the client values is the design. So everybody likes good quality cabinets, but snazzy IKEA kitchens are almost as nice as $100,000 kitchens. So what the client values in a kitchen is design, the design work. Whether the customer wants the kitchen to show off to their relatives or to impress their friends or to actually use as a kitchen, there's an intention of that client, and the client has a perceived value for the different pieces of the value chain. So for example, they don't see the hinges, even though the hinges are part of the value chain in the kitchen. It's often the case that the client's perception of where the value is in what they're buying is different than where the dollars actually go in acquiring a good or service they're looking for. And one of the big profitability opportunities for companies is to address parts of the value chain where there is a disconnect between the cost of providing something and the value that the client assigns to it. So we call that, the perceived value the client has versus the actual value of where the money's going. The other interesting thing about this value chain, and this is really important in almost every business, is who owns the client relationship. So every one of the services that our clients provide, and it's often the case that a company that we're working with, they have 2 or 3 different solutions, so they might have 2 or 3 different value chains that need analyzing. And this really helps visualize and understand where you sit in the client's perception of what's being provided.
There's an old story, I don't know if you've heard it, but a man's walking along and he sees these stonemasons and they're chopping these giant blocks. And he goes up to the first man and says, "What are you doing?" And he says, "Oh, I'm laboring for my daily income so I can put food on the table." And he goes to the next person and he asks, what are you doing? And he says, I'm building a building. And he goes to the third person who says, I'm building a cathedral where we will serve God. That man could sell cathedrals.
Right.
Wouldn't have to do the stonemasonry anymore. When you get the solution you're providing, you get to stand back and say, I know enough about this whole thing to provide more of the solution. I can be the front end of that solution. Needs a bigger vision.
It is part of the business model discussion. Absolutely is who owns the client and how much of the value chain do you have? Because if your slice of the value chain is too narrow and not profitable enough, somebody's controlling you. You've been, the term is commoditized, right? You're providing a commodity that they can buy from 30 other suppliers of, say, kitchen cabinets. So we talked about in an earlier slide about dominating your market. We don't mean being Walmart. What we mean is defining your market in a way that nobody can actually compete with you in what it is that you do or provide.
And it is interesting trying to step back and say, what is the solution that somebody's looking for? So we were speaking to someone who helps landlords last week and really helps landlords through some difficulties. But when we asked, what's the solution you provide? It's not really that little piece that is important. It's the ability to stay in your home. It's the ability to have a better quality of life by bringing in some income that you wouldn't have been able to otherwise. You don't have to know how to do all of these things. You don't need to be the source of them. You need to step back and in your marketing, speak about that solution and the piece that makes the difference that you want to share. So you can talk about how do you help someone become a landlord? How do you get to bring in some extra income, even if you're creating just a tiny piece? So as a person who creates beautiful hinges and hardware, I can absolutely sell clients' kitchens. I can be that person who's inspiring the entire project.
Absolutely.
It's just a choice. And then I can also make a little bit of money off of each of these people and the supervision of all of it, while also having designers design kitchens around my beautiful hinges and hardware. So it's, again, just perspective. It's stepping out, and it might just be that you're here and you need to add this piece, or you're here and you could easily capture this piece. But without stepping out of status quo, it's really hard to see. And without being able to think about your business in a 30,000-foot way, you can feel like you have to just keep doing what you were doing.
And there are some business techniques to doing this. So Cher talked about one of the ways to do it is to market directly to the end customer. Even though you're a hinge supplier, you can still work to take a position that you understand what clients need out of kitchens. And
everything hinges on our kitchens.
There we go. Anybody in the hinge business, you just got a new logo. So there are tools to move up and down the value chain, technical tools. So for example, strategic partnerships, joint ventures, acquiring somebody, being acquired by somebody, bringing on a partner that brings two pieces of the value chain together in a way that produces more than either of them could produce individually. So there are a bunch of technical, knowledge-based business solutions that can actually have you address this efficiently.
And we can help you with expertise.
Absolutely.
Back when I was a solopreneur, I had not thought I would ever acquire business, let alone 3.
Yes.
So it seems like such a big leap to think this way, but with the right support and with the input and analysis is right here for you, it's actually just running business the way successful businesses run. Which is kind of funny. It's an identity shift that you will take as you work with us. So next on the what you deliver side of things, you understood the value. Applying the Pareto principle is applying the recognition that 80% of your inputs produce 20% of your outputs, and inversely, 20% of your inputs produce 80% of your output. So what that means, just on that level, is 20% of your clients bring in 80% of your revenue. If you can figure out which clients to stop serving, you have reduced your workload and lost almost nothing. And if you work just a little bit harder and find a few more of those clients over here on the green end, you could double your 20 and still be working half as much and be bringing in almost double the income. What's really interesting is if you take that 20% and you apply the 80-20 principle again, 4% of your clients are bringing 64% of your results. That one's really easy to picture. What is harder to picture is dividing your services down into SKUs, and I think we talk about this a little bit more later, but teasing out that conglomerate, all the things you do, into specific products, services, and solutions you deliver, because 4% of those deliver 64% of your results. That's where the value is. So if you have a $100 service, 20% of your clients would be willing to pay 4 times as much for that, because that's how the value curve works, and it's everywhere. Then we take that 20% and you would have, lost my math.
20% of the 20%.
Yes, the 20% of the 20%. So if you have that 20% would be willing to pay 4 times as much, 4% would be willing to pay 16 times as much, and you just keep going. And that 1% of people are willing to pay an astronomical amount if you can actually create a solution that matches their needs.
And this sounds not possible, but this curve, this math, if you want to call it that, is as provable and consistent and applicable to everything as gravity is. It's just a rule that works. So, if you have 200 clients, what we're saying here is that 40 of them are producing 80% of your revenue. And so you don't need the other 160. And that's where we get to that conversation about loyalty and where are they going to go. So there's a sort of a mindset discussion to have there. But think about how much more profitable you would be if you served 40 clients who produced 80% of your results, and you didn't have to serve the other 160% who produced 20% of your results. So it's math that works.
And it works everywhere. So for instance, 4% of the words make up 60% of the language that you're using. 4% of the roads in your town have 64% of the traffic. Everywhere you go, this works. If you can find a data set and you can apply this curve to it, which is a lot more fun than applying a bell curve and looking for average.
Mm-hmm.
This is about how is a small business who is not Walmart, who cannot be all things to all people, is a small business aiming to have maybe a dozen employees. This is where you need to sit to make that work.
We talked to a business owner 2 weeks ago that had about 80 clients and was making a certain amount of money. And in the course of the conversation, she said to us, what I really need is 10 clients like this. And those 10 clients would have produced the same revenue that she was getting from the 80 clients that she already had. So this rule works everywhere.
It does. And it lets you focus in on your excellence. When you recognize this is true, even if right now you only have one of these clients because you have been out there letting business happen to you like the rest of us have, until you stop, it's still true. And we'll talk a little more about that as well. So there's the SKUs question. Turning your service into a product. Call it a SKU because it's what you'll see on all the retail products is that's your SKU. It keeps you focused. Defining a service as something that is identifiable lets you know what is in that service and what isn't. I know when I was a web designer, I would have people say, when I came to help them set up to edit their website, they would ask, while you're here, can you write some copy, install my email, install my printer? It's not part of the SKU, but I've got a SKU for that, or I don't do it. So it helps you focus. It also makes it so you define how you go above and beyond. Always found that is a killer. That message, go above and beyond, under promise and over deliver, exceed expectations. All of those are great if they're a marketing device and you have everything itemized. What does it mean to go above and beyond, and what's my margin on that?
And what are expectations?
Mhm.
So set them in a way that you're being paid to exceed them.
Yes, exactly. And your SKUs will help you do that. It'll help you avoid feature creep like installing printers. And they're trackable and measurable, right? You cannot you can't know if somebody's being efficient and productive if you don't know what typical is. When we did this at the franchise company that I worked for, we systemized the whole business and we identified different programs and the ways that they installed things and identified how fast should it be per board foot, per square foot. And then we shared it with the employees. This is what great work is. It was such a relief to our best employees to know they were doing a good job. If you don't know if you're doing a good job, it is hard to stay engaged. Next up, the how. So this gets back into how you create value for your ideal client and how you deliver on that. So it comes back again to our Pareto principle, applying this to who you serve. How you deliver this is how you approach it in the marketplace, how you position yourself in the marketplace, how you are deciding who's a great client, who are the red flags, and that 4% of your clients produce 64% of your revenue and probably more, a much higher percentage of your profit because they're so easy to work with. You don't have to do rework. You don't have the complaints. You don't have the delays in the pipeline and the delays in getting paid from this 4%. So take that same math and recognize that your ideal avatar is that 4%. You'll work with the 20%. And you might design a single product for the 1%. Right? So we have a product that is 4 times as expensive as our core program.
Right.
And there'll be probably a client a year that we will bring that out for because it's incredible. It is the ultimate solution for the person
Launch
who
a
just
business.
needs to launch.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we want to work with the 4% like you, who are our ideal avatar, who want to work hard, who are committed to growth, who want to have the business know how to be a great leader in your business. So here's the challenge of finding and capturing your avatar. Your current client base feels like reality to you because you are so overworked, you're so exhausted often, and this is what you're inundated with day after day after day. You think that your current client is reality, but the market is much bigger. There are people you've never met, and there may be 1 or 2 of these current clients who actually are maybe 10 or 20, right? Depending on where you're at.
And you have a great example of sort of an emergency department model on the perfect client.
Yes,
Current clients.
you can sit inside of this microcosm believing that it's the world. And I have a friend who works in an emergency department right next door to a university. And he told me one day that young people these days have gone to hell because they're all drunk partiers, drug addicts. They have no self-control. And I said, perhaps those are only the ones that you see at 2 a.m. in the emergency room. And it just floored him because those were the only young people he was seeing in his world, not what young people are like today. And I think that's really vital to understand that we live in filtered worlds and there's so much outside of your business that you haven't been exposed to yet. And if you're telling yourself it just is what it is so you can survive it, sometimes you need to step out of it so that you have some added data, added market research to help you see. We actually have a document that tells you how many people are in this community, in this type of client. We can get you those numbers because they exist. Now, if the numbers are tiny, then we need to understand how to move things so that you can capture enough of these clients. But like that one
Generally
client, 10
not a
people.
problem.
Yeah.
Generally not a problem. So for small businesses, I mean, it depends kind of what you do, but in general, you're not battling PepsiCo for global domination in soft drinks where market share matters. For all intents and purposes, for almost all of our clients, the ideal client, the 4%, even the 1%, there's an infinite number of them relative to the size of the business. So it's unlikely that you can't secure, or will run out of those perfect clients.
Yeah, absolutely. And the 1%, why it's way over here, is because you may have never met them. You may not believe they exist, but they're there. They're just outside in the rest of the market that you have not been going after yet. Which brings us back to your why. And I love that we come back to your why, because it is that driving force behind your business. It's how you profit. It's taking your best solution, the thing that you wanted to deliver, and your best avatar to create the highest value, where you're changing lives. You've probably heard about the difference between selling a feature versus selling a benefit. You take that further and you can sell the transformation. My favorite is still that old, nobody wants a drill, they want holes. And of course, as a woman thinking about a drill, why do I want a hole? Or even the ability to use it as a power screwdriver and put in a screw. I don't get that. But what I do get is the idea that I, as a woman, don't need a man to fix shit around my house.
I think you can say that.
I think so. It's the standing in the middle of my living room, hanging a shelf up, fixing a broken chair, and singing very quietly, because it's a quiet song, I am woman, hear me roar. It's that. And that's why Home Depot is where I go, because I can do it, they can help. Right? That's transformation. What you do when you are delivering your best solution to someone who actually wants it, doesn't just need it, but wants it, you are transforming their lives. And it's the best gig going, right? We love what we do because our solution empowers small businesses to come back to your vision of what you thought your business would be,
Mm-hmm.
and what you thought it was going to result in for you and your family, and design the path to do it. And for the ideal client who is committed to growing a business, it is transformative. It is incredible to put your business into that place where you get to transform people. It is also, because of the flow, there's a universal law of reciprocity, that there is a flow of energy that happens in business. It's a case of delivering value and getting money. There has to be a flow of reciprocity. If I don't charge enough for my service, then people feel kind of dirty.
Yeah, it's a yes. You have to be priced right, and your best avatar will pay full value for your solution.
Mm-hmm. And feel like they are lucky to have met you.
Absolutely.
Right. It's where your highest profit is, because you're not trying to convince someone who doesn't want what you have to take it. It means you stop discounting to find non-ideal clients. There's a whole story about why discounting is the opposite of what you need to do in your business. Right? That when you start playing with margins and you can see how you're affecting the bottom line by those things that you think are inconsequential, it is profound. And when you start discounting, you're devaluing yourself, and you're teaching people to wait for sales. Permanently.
Very hard to recover from discounting.
Yeah, we have one of our fractional marketing people will help you see, if you're in that position, how to fix it. It is doable, but it is a pivot to be able to rebuild your value in the minds of the customer. When you focused on your highest value, you get your highest profit, and that is what leads to actual financial freedom. Sometimes people think it's just, I need a bigger paycheck that's going to lead to my financial freedom. And as a business owner, that misses the entire point. And I'm not a finance person, so I'm going to make you talk to that one.
So the idea here is that you're creating something that is larger than yourself. So true, if you just want it to be paid well for the thing that you do. Being an employee is a much less risky thing to do. So the reason you're a business owner, or one of the benefits of being a business owner, is that you get to create something of value that is beyond you. It's separate from you. And if you build it wisely and plan your eventual departure from it carefully, you can create, generational wealth from this thing that you love to do.
Nicely put. The challenge that I have seen for decades now, at least a year or two, is that people think if I sacrifice for my business, if I pour my blood, sweat, and tears into it, eventually I will sell my business. But I tell you, I won't buy a business that makes me suffer the way you're suffering. I just won't. I want a business that runs without me. If I'm buying your business, I want it to be a place that generates revenue and freedom for me, or it's not worth my time. And that's a terrible, hard truth that most business owners don't realize in that stage where you're sitting in the doldrum sacrificing. There are steps to take to remove you from the business so that you are the visionary leader, steering it into opportunity and toward your vision that make it very attractive to someone who might later want to buy it. But if you don't do that, all the belief that I'll sacrifice for 10 years and then I'll sell my business, the sacrifice is not worth it. It never pays off.
Yeah, taking entrepreneurial risk in return for a salary is not a good business model. It's one of those you can't stay there doldrum things.
And we're going to talk in a moment about how to really understand this better at our Accelerated Wealth Experience Summit. But one of the pieces that Jim put up on a chart near the end of that it didn't get enough attention because it was just almost an aside, that you can work for 10 or 20 years and then sell your assets for $400,000. And people think, oh, that's the payoff. That's not the payoff. When you have created a business that has a great business model, the difference between the great business model and not can be
tenfold or more.
$7 million, $8 million versus that $400,000 that just recovers the equipment costs, the land value, perhaps the building value, perhaps, that you have put yourself in debt to finance. If you have not found our web TV channel on YouTube yet, our 4% television, there's a great episode on zombie businesses and entrepreneurial poverty that describes that reality that so many businesses are going through. And the ways that you scale back your dreams to keep your business alive so you don't feel like a failure. When a business fails, you do not become a failure. In fact, we teach our clients to look for fail points because that's where success and bigger success is found. And the other side of things that you dial back is the idea that you're going to be a slave to your business until you sell it. And again, not an attractive business. Time freedom and financial freedom need to be part of the business, even if you're passing it down to your children. Right? You don't want to give your children
especially if you're passing it down to your children.
You want them to have a business that fuels their lives as well. Profit.
Yeah.
I had a client who said, nobody's ever talked to me about profit before. So the journey. Our mission is to pour our knowledge, learnings, experience, advice, and connections into your business journey. We have an amazing team we work with. And when you work with us, you get access to this incredible team, sometimes in VIP days, sometimes just because you have a question and we get the answer for you. Sometimes it's someone that you just need to work with on a small basis, a quick consultation. We have a virtual advisory board that we come alongside you with, which is a dream of businesses to be able to tap into.
Every kind of expertise. And you don't, people think, I can't afford to hire a marketing person. I can't afford to hire a finance person. I can't afford to hire a salesperson. Just so you know, highly, highly qualified people are available to you on a rent an expert basis.
Yeah, that's a hidden resource for small businesses that when you discover them, it's like Christmas.
Yep.
So that you can quickly get through the doldrums. We call it stage 3 to 4, and make the critical leaps you need to make. There's a reason that it feels like 1 step forward and 2 steps back, because it's not 1 step, it's 5. When you're really going through and coming out the other side of that doldrums, and then applying your business math and stepping into your leadership so that you can go all the way to the end of the road. And I'm pretty sure end of your business road. Pretty sure we'll have a roadmap of that in just a moment. So how do you get the free business model evolution analysis? Because this is, if things are going wrong, this is what you need before you need anything else. Well, we have that as a bonus for the summit that we have coming up in a couple of weeks.
And we still have a few seats available.
We do. Yep, we absolutely do. And actually talked to the hotel today, and they still have rooms in our block available. So you can get out of the everyday. Change is much easier to have happen when you step out of the environment that is burying you. We start on Friday afternoon, May 26th, so that you have half a day to figure out how to get away from your business. And then it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It is an intensely powerful, profound experience that shows you the blueprint of what are you missing. There is a know-how gap in your business when you're at this stage. It's the same as everybody else who's at that stage. Everybody's going through it. It's amazing to see people look around the room and go,
we're all here
we're all
because,
same journey that we're on. Your business is unique. Your problems are shared with everybody who's on the journey of building a business. And what you need is to tune up your vehicle. Don't junk it. We're not going to try and get you into another business. We're looking at your existing business, your existing success, and going, how do we make this really pay off? What does that look like? And how we describe it is we're all on this journey. So at 1, you are self-employed. You're a solopreneur. You're just getting into the business. You can stay there. People do that successfully as long as their business model is correct. At a 2, you're basically self-employed with helpers, so that you're not doing as much of the admin as you have been doing in the past. Maybe you have someone even helping you with sales at this point in time, but you're really the owner-operator. It's when you get to 3 where your success happened to you and you don't have the time, you value the expertise to model it out and understand it, but you don't have the time to do that. And you don't have the expertise to do that yourself, that we come into play for you, because this is where businesses go to die. There are roadblocks. There are challenges. You can easily go off the rails. If you kept going straight on this path, you're off the rails already. And you're stuck because you've built this level of success that needs all of your time and energy. And you're not sure how to go from here to this next level where you're profitable and you can start stepping into the owner-manager role, and then out of owner-manager into owner-leader. So we have some yield signs ahead too, things where you need to stop and build your profit. Don't act too fast before you start hiring. Jim has this incredible Excel spreadsheet set of formulas he's created and will create for you to say, how do you know when it's time to hire? How do you know you can afford somebody, when you can afford somebody? That knowledge is incredible, because most people just go, well, we have too much business, we need to hire people.
So we're looking at the road here, but you actually get a customized map for your business as part of the process. So we will work with you to figure out your value chain, work with you to figure out what your avatar looks like, work with you to figure out what a typical avatar, a good client, is going to produce for you in terms of revenue, how to transition from your current customer base, the 80% that you really probably shouldn't be serving in the long haul, to your ideal customer base, which is that 20%. And that's all mapped out for you financially. Like you actually have a roadmap to follow to get you through the doors.
Yeah. And often people say at this point, I just can't see how to get there. And it makes total sense, because you need data. The business is bigger than you at this point, and it's bigger than anything you've ever done. You can feel that your business has shifted, and it can be a little disconcerting. if you feel that you had to figure it out on your own too. Everything is figure outable. And at this stage, it's time to bring in some experts, bring in some strategic thinking and some people who've been down this road before, right? That's how successful businesses grow, is they follow people who've already been down that road. They get mentors, they get advice, they get great consultants and some coaching to keep you on track so you don't stall at the side of the road, get scared of this hairpin turn and say, I'm not sure I want to do that today, and put it off to tomorrow because tomorrow never comes. So as you follow this, it gets you to that point where you have that business that is fulfilling your dreams. So it's a $600 investment to do this entire program, and it comes with lots of wonderful bonuses. The biggest one is this $750 bonus to do the business model evolution assessment. You can absolutely purchase that separately. We would love to dive into your financials with you and do the business model evolution assessment with you.
And the $600 investment is the AWE Summit.
It is.
Yeah.
So you get the full summit, your meals, your drinks, entertainment. We will treat you like a CEO, and you get some one-on-one time during the summit, after the summit, that really looks at what is your roadmap. What is the opportunity you're not seeing in your business that is going to make the road so much smoother? We would love to host you there. What I suggest you do is hop over to podiumprosperity.com, and absolutely you can book into the summit right now. But I think you really should get a sense of what's your ROI on it, because it is a commitment of time to come and join us at the summit. So book a call with me. We'll chat for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, ask the hard questions. I love hard questions. And we'll see if this is the opportunity that you need to take you and your business to the level that you actually were wanting to get to all along. Any last words for you?
We would very much look forward to seeing you there. And there's not a lot of time left, and the summit's almost full. So do book a call with Cher if that's an important thing for you before you come. But we assure you, you will walk away a better business person from this marvelous weekend that will also be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. The value that we know that we deliver in this program is something we are incredibly proud of. We make a bold promise for the summit, which is you will unlock the multi-million dollar potential in your business. We show you how to get your existing business to $10 million. And we know that's true because it's taking your brilliance, putting some alchemy together, and architecting what it is going to take to get you from here to there. And have some fun doing it, right? Networking with some other people who are on the same road with you. I really hope to hear from you and help you on your journey.
I'm Jim Pillow. I'm the consultant.
I'm Cher Cunningham. I'm your coach. We'll talk to you soon.